The headlights of Marcus's old Ford pickup cut through the autumn mist like dull knives, barely illuminating the winding mountain road ahead. It was well past midnight, and he was beginning to regret taking the scenic route home from his sister's wedding in Portland. The fog had grown thicker with each passing mile, and the radio had long since devolved into static, leaving him alone with his thoughts and the rhythmic swish of windshield wipers. That's when he saw her. At first, she appeared as merely a silhouette in his high beams, a slender figure standing perfectly still at the road's shoulder. As he drew closer, Marcus's first instinct was to accelerate. He'd heard too many horror stories about highway robberies that started just like this. But something made him ease off the gas instead. The woman turned to face his approaching vehicle, and Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. She was striking in a way that defied conventional beauty. Her features were almost mathematically perfect, high cheekbones that caught the light like cut crystal, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to shift color with each blink, from deep violet to something that might have been silver. Her hair fell in waves past her shoulders, the color of moonlight on dark water, somehow both silver and black at the same time. But it wasn't just her features that caught his attention. There was something in the way she held herself, an otherworldly grace that made her seem almost weightless, as if gravity was more of a suggestion than a law. She wore what appeared to be a simple white jumpsuit, unmarked and unnaturally clean considering their surroundings. Marcus pulled over before he could talk himself out of it. The woman didn't move, didn't flinch at the sound of his tires on the gravel shoulder. She simply watched him with those impossible eyes. "Need a ride?" he called through the passenger window, trying to keep his voice steady. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intensity that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. When she spoke, her voice was melodic, with an accent he couldn't place. "That would be most appreciated." As she gracefully slid into the passenger seat, Marcus noticed several things at once. First, she moved with an impossible fluidity, as if her joints worked differently than a normal human's. Second, despite the cold, foggy night, her skin was warm to the touch when her hand accidentally brushed his. And third, she carried no luggage, no purse, not even a phone. "I'm Marcus," he offered, pulling back onto the empty road. "You may call me Lyra," she replied, her eyes fixed straight ahead. "And you are very kind to stop, Marcus. Many of your kind would not have done so." He almost missed the strange phrasing, "your kind," but before he could dwell on it, she continued. "I find myself in need of assistance, and you have already shown yourself to be different from the others who passed me by. Perhaps it is fortune that brought you to this road tonight." Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to focus on the road ahead rather than the strange, beautiful woman beside him. "Where are you headed?" Lyra's lips curved into a subtle smile. "That depends entirely on where you are willing to take me." The fog seemed to grow thicker around them, and Marcus could have sworn the dashboard lights flickered for just a moment. In the passenger seat, Lyra's skin seemed to shimmer faintly, like starlight on water. He was about to ask another question when something large darted across the road ahead. Marcus slammed on the brakes, the truck's tires screaming against the wet asphalt. Time seemed to slow down as they skidded toward what looked like a fallen tree, but then Lyra moved. Her hand shot out faster than his eyes could track, touching the dashboard lightly. Suddenly, the truck's momentum simply stopped. There was no violent jerk, no sensation of impact. They simply ceased moving, as if the laws of physics had taken a momentary holiday. When Marcus managed to tear his eyes away from the obstacle in the road, which had indeed been a massive fallen tree, he found Lyra watching him with those color-shifting eyes, her expression both apologetic and calculating. "I suppose," she said quietly, "I owe you an explanation." As their truck sat impossibly still on the slick road, Lyra's skin began to emit a subtle luminescence, like moonlight trapped beneath glass. She raised her hand, and Marcus watched in astonishment as tiny points of light danced between her fingers, forming constellations he'd never seen before. "I am not," she began carefully, "what you would call human. Though my people have walked among yours for millennia, we come from a world that orbits a star you cannot see with your telescopes. The lights between her fingers coalesced into a three-dimensional map of what Marcus realized must be her solar system. He watched, transfixed, as planets the color of jewels rotated around a golden sun. "My world is dying," she continued, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to press against Marcus's chest. "We are a race of explorers, scientists, and what your people might call preservationists. We seek out worlds with potential, with life that might one day reach the stars. Earth has been in our registry for thousands of your years." Marcus found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. Are you saying you're an alien?" Lyra's laugh was like wind chimes in a summer breeze. "That is such a limited term. We are travelers, guardians perhaps. My particular role is that of an observer. I monitor, I record, I protect when necessary. Until tonight, when my transport vessel malfunctioned and left me stranded on this mountain road." She waved her hand, and the miniature solar system dissolved into sparks that faded away. With another gesture, the fallen tree ahead of them simply wasn't there anymore. Marcus blinked hard, wondering if he was hallucinating. "What I just did," Lyra explained, "is a simple manipulation of probability fields. On my world, we learn to see the threads of possibility that bind reality together. With proper training, we can suggest alternative outcomes." To demonstrate, she lifted her hand again. This time, a drop of water from the fog outside stopped in midair by the windshield. As Marcus watched, it split into 1,000 tiny droplets, each catching the light from his headlights, and creating a rainbow that filled the cab of his truck. Then, with a soft smile, she let them fall naturally. That's impossible," Marcus breathed, though he just watched it happen. "Impossible is a human concept," Lyra replied. "Where I come from, we understand that the universe is far more flexible than your sciences have yet discovered. What you call physical laws are more like guidelines that can be persuaded to look the other way occasionally." She turned those remarkable eyes on him fully then, and Marcus felt as if he were falling into a galaxy. "You saved me from what could have been a very long wait on that road. My backup protocols would have eventually activated, but it could have been days. In that time, I might have been discovered by those who, well, let's just say there are organizations on your world that would be very interested in studying someone like me." A shiver ran down Marcus's spine at the implication. He'd seen enough movies to imagine what might happen to an alien discovered by the wrong people. "You're different, Marcus," she continued, her voice softening. "You stopped when others passed by. You offered help without demanding answers. You've shown kindness without agenda. These are rare qualities in any species." She reached out and touched his hand on the steering wheel. Her skin was warm, but it also seemed to pulse with a gentle energy that made his fingers tingle. "In my culture," she said, "such kindness creates a debt. We believe that the balance of the universe must be maintained. You have done me a great service, and now I must repay it." The fog outside seemed to press closer, creating a cocoon of privacy around the truck. The dashboard lights pulsed once, then stabilized, and Marcus could have sworn he heard distant music, like crystal bells in the wind. "I can offer you knowledge," Lyra said, "or abilities similar to my own. I could show you wonders that no human has ever seen. Or," she paused, those spectacular eyes searching his face, "I could offer you something more personal." The air in the truck seemed to crackle with possibility. Marcus sat in stunned silence as Lyra's words hung in the air between them. The fog outside had become so thick that it seemed to create a pocket universe containing just the two of them, the old Ford truck, an endless possibility. "More personal?" he finally managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's skin shimmed with that strange internal light as she turned to face him fully. "My people form bonds differently than humans do. We can share ourselves, our essence, our very being with another. It is the most intimate gift we can offer." As she spoke, the air around her seemed to ripple, and for a moment, Marcus caught a glimpse of what might have been her true form, a being of pure light and geometry, beautiful in a way that his human mind struggled to comprehend. Then she was back to her human appearance, though now he could see the otherworldliness that had been there all along. "Such a bond would change you," she continued, her voice taking on a musical quality that made his skin tingle. "You would retain your humanity, but you would also carry a part of me within you. You would see the world as I do, the probability threads, the quantum possibilities, the hidden symmetries of the universe." She reached out and touched his temple gently. Immediately, Marcus's vision exploded with color and light. He could see the fog outside for what it really was, not just water droplets, but a dance of molecules, each one containing its own miniature universe of possibility. He saw the metal of his truck not as solid matter, but as a complex web of atomic bonds, humming with potential energy. "This is how I see your world," Lyra whispered, removing her hand. Marcus's vision returned to normal, leaving him gasping at the loss of that incredible perspective. "The gift I offer is not just knowledge or power," she continued. "It is myself. My essence would become intertwined with yours. You would carry within you not just the ability to see and manipulate reality as I do, but also my memories, my experiences, my understanding of the cosmos." She paused, those color-shifting eyes searching his face. "But such a gift comes with responsibility. You would become a guardian of sorts, bound by the same codes that guide my people. You would have to use these abilities wisely, to protect and preserve, never to harm or exploit." Marcus found himself nodding slowly, still trying to process everything he was hearing. "And what about you?" he asked. "What happens to you if you share yourself with me?" Lyra's smile was like starlight breaking through clouds. "I would continue my mission, but we would be connected. In times of need, we could find each other across any distance. We would be, as your poets might say, two stars in the same constellation." Outside the truck, the fog began to thin slightly, revealing a sky filled with more stars than Marcus had ever seen. Each one seemed to pulse with new meaning now, as if they were all trying to tell him something. "Why me?" he finally asked. "Surely there are others more qualified, more important." Lyra's laugh was like crystal wind chimes. "Importance is not measured by titles or achievements, Marcus. It is measured by the capacity for kindness, for understanding, for seeing beyond the surface of things. You stopped to help a stranger on a dark road. You accepted the impossible with an open mind. You showed compassion without expectation of reward. These qualities are rare and precious across all species." She held out her hand, palm up, and a small sphere of light appeared above it, pulsing like a miniature star. "The choice is yours, Marcus. I offer myself freely, but you must accept freely as well. Such a bond cannot be forced or coerced. It must be entered into with full understanding and willing heart." The sphere of light in Lyra's palm pulsed in rhythm with Marcus's heartbeat, as if it were already trying to synchronize with his essence. He looked from the light to her eyes, which now seemed to contain entire galaxies within their depths. "If I accept," he said slowly, "what exactly will happen?" Lyra's expression softened. "The process is different for each bonding. For us, it would begin with touch." She gestured to the sphere of light. "This is a concentrated portion of my essence. When you touch it, it will recognize your acceptance and begin the merger. The physical sensation is difficult to describe in human terms. Some have called it ecstasy, others have said it feels like being rebuilt from stardust." Marcus swallowed hard, his hand hovering near the sphere. "Will it hurt?" "There is no pain," she assured him. "But there is intensity. You will experience every moment of my existence in a matter of seconds. Millennia of memories, knowledge, and sensations will become part of you. Your mind will expand to accommodate this new awareness, and your physical form will undergo subtle changes to handle the enhanced perceptions." The light from the sphere cast moving shadows across their faces, creating patterns that seemed to tell ancient stories. Outside, the fog had completely lifted, revealing a night sky that seemed impossibly close and clear. "Your life will never be the same," Lyra continued. "You will see beauty in things you never noticed before. You will understand the mathematical poetry of falling leaves, the quantum dance of sunlight on water, the gravitational songs of planets in their orbits. But you will also see the darkness that threatens such beauty, and you will be compelled to protect it." She paused, her expression growing serious. There will be others like me who will recognize what you have become. Some will be allies, others may not approve of sharing our gifts with humans. You will have to learn quickly, adapt to new responsibilities, and possibly face challenges you never imagined. The sphere pulsed brighter, as if responding to her words. Marcus could feel its warmth on his face, smell something like ozone and starlight, if starlight had a smell. But you will not face these challenges alone. Lyra added softly. We will be connected, always. Distance will mean nothing. Time will become more flexible in your perception. And you will have abilities that few humans have ever possessed. Marcus took a deep breath, his decision crystallizing in his mind. With deliberate slowness, he reached out and touched the sphere of light. The world exploded. Colors that had no names in any human language flooded Marcus's vision. His consciousness expanded in all directions at once, breaking through the barriers of conventional perception like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. He felt himself dissolving and reforming, becoming both more and less than he had been moments before. Lyra's memories cascaded through him like a river of liquid light. He saw her world, a planet orbiting a binary star system, its cities built from crystalline structures that sang in harmony with the cosmic radiation. He experienced her childhood, though that term seemed inadequate for her species' early development phase, felt the joy of first learning to manipulate probability fields, the excitement of being chosen as an observer. He lived through her centuries of watching Earth, felt her hope and concern for humanity's development, understood the delicate balance her people maintained in their role as universal guardians. The knowledge settled into him like sediment in a clear stream, becoming part of his fundamental structure. When the initial flood of memories and sensations began to stabilize, Marcus became aware of his body again, though body now seemed like an oversimplified term for what he had become. He could feel every cell, every atom, every quantum possibility within himself. The truck around him had transformed in his perception, becoming a complex tapestry of interconnected energy fields and probability matrices. Open your eyes. Lyra's voice came from both outside and inside his mind. Marcus hadn't realized his eyes were closed. When he opened them, the world had changed forever. The night sky was no longer just a collection of distant lights. He could see the three-dimensional reality of space, the invisible threads of gravitational force that bound everything together, the quantum fluctuations that danced between particles across vast distances. How do you feel? Lyra asked, though he realized she already knew the answer through their newly formed bond. I feel. Marcus searched for words that could contain the immensity of his experience. I feel complete. Like I've been seeing the world in black and white, and now there's color. But that doesn't even begin to describe it. Lyra smiled, and he could now see the complex energy patterns that made up her form, the beautiful mathematics of her being. The bond has taken well. You're adapting faster than most. Marcus lifted his hand, watching in fascination as probability fields shifted around his fingers. With a thought, he created a small constellation of light motes, similar to what Lyra had shown him earlier. It felt as natural as breathing. What happens now? He asked, though parts of him already knew the answer. No, Lyra said, her voice carrying both joy and solemnity. We begin your real education. You'll nay.